Welcome to this video on how to convert a decimal to a fraction or improper fraction. So let's take the number 5.13. So right now, the decimal point is between the 5 and the 1, right here. We need it to land after the 3. So that means that we need to move it over 2 times so that it becomes 513. So again, we move the decimal place over twice. We'll need to remember that for step 2. So again, step 1, we moved the decimal place over twice, so 5.13 became 513. Now I think we can all agree that 5.13 is not the same as 513. Having $5.13 is clearly not the same as having $513. So how do we fix this? Well, what we do is we divide it by 1, and then we put the same number of zeros as we have moved over the decimal point. So we moved the decimal place over twice, so I'm going to put 2 zeros here. Okay, so that's our step 2, divide the number by a power of 10, in which the number of zeros is the same as the number of times you moved the decimal point. So 5.13 equals 513 over 100. And if you don't believe me, you can type in 513 divided by 100 in your calculator, and it will tell you that the answer is 5.13. Okay, so that's our answer. Now notice there is a third step. It says to reduce if possible. So what are the things to look for if, or how do we know if we can reduce this? So if we can reduce this, okay, this will end in an even number, or it could end in a 5. Okay, well, where the heck did I get that? Well, it's really, really simple. What numbers go into 100? Well, 100 is 2 times 50, right? 50 is 2 times 25, and 25 is 5 times 5. So the only two unique prime numbers that go into 100 are 2 and 5. And you guys know if something is a multiple of 2, right, then it will end in an even number. And if it's a multiple of 5, it will end in a 5 or a 0. But of course 0, right, that still gives you an even number. So we're just going to look for any number that ends in an even digit or in a 5. Okay, so in other words, if it ends in a 3, let's see, if it ends in a 1, a 3, a 7, or a 9, okay, you cannot reduce. Okay, if it ends in a 0, 2, 4, 5, 6, or 8, then you can reduce. And that's your general rule. Okay, and again, I mean, you can memorize that, of course, if you want to. To me, I just say, hey, is it even or is it divisible by 5? That's what I'm looking for. Okay, so let's do another example. So here we have 17.297. Okay, so again, the first thing we have to do is move the decimal place over to the right. So this time it goes 1, 2, 3 spaces. Okay, so we moved it over 3 spaces. When we do that, we get the number 17,297. And since we moved the decimal place over 3 spaces, we are dividing it by 1 with 3 zeros. Okay, so that is my final answer. Again, when we think about whether we need to reduce it, okay, this digit is not an even number, 7 is an odd number, and is not 5. Okay, so there is nothing there to reduce. All right, let's keep going. What about 1.3412? That's a pretty, there's a lot of digits there. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. This time we had to move it over, the decimal place over 4 times. So that becomes 13,412 on top. Okay, then we're going to have 1 with 4 zeros, or 10,000 on the bottom. Okay, so before we get all excited and say, hey, is that my final answer, we need to look at this last digit, right? Can this be reduced? It says reduce if possible, right? And we know that we can reduce if the digit is a 0, a 2, a 4, a 5, a 6, or an 8, right? If it's an even number or a 5. And in fact, this is a 2, it ends in a 2, so we know that we can, that we have an even number upstairs and an even number downstairs, so we can divide both numbers by 2. Okay, So when we do that, we get 6,706. Okay, and then of course we get 5,000 downstairs. So notice in this process, oh, we have another even number, right? And so we're going to have to do that all over again, right? We have an even number above an even number. So once again, we divide by 2, right? And we get 2,500 downstairs. That's pretty simple. And then we get 3,353 upstairs. Okay, so now, right, my last digit is a 3. So there's no way to reduce that anymore. So the final answer is 3,353 over 2,500. Okay, let's do at least one more example. Okay, now we have 6.22. So this time we need to move the decimal place over 2 times. So that becomes 622. Since I moved it twice, I need to put 2 zeros in my denominator, so that's 100. And again, we need to ask ourselves, can we reduce it? And absolutely, because 622 is an even number, and 100 is an even number. So 622 divided by 2 is 311. 100 divided by 2 is 50. Okay, so now that I look at my last digit, it is a 1. Okay, so it is not divisible by either a 2 or a 5. So this is actually my final answer, 311 divided by 50. And that is how you convert a decimal to an improper fraction.